This week, Suha Akyuz, Application Security Manager at Invicti Security, is going to discuss why DAST from the project management perspective. In the enterprise security news, Atos launches Think AI. AWS welcomes Wicker to the team. US DoD approves 2 ISC Squared certifications as requirements for staff. And JFrog to acquire Vdoo. I think that's how you say that. Finally, we wrap up the show with 2 micro interviews from RSA Conference, featuring Mario Vuxen, the CEO of Reversing Labs, and Ricard Carlson, the CEO of Detectify. So stay tuned for all that and more on this episode of Enterprise Security Weekly. This is Security Weekly, for security professionals, by security professionals. Broadcasting live from G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island, it's the show where we talk security vendors and aren't afraid to name names. It's Enterprise Security Weekly. The hybrid workforce is here to stay, and it requires real-time visibility, control, and rapid response of every endpoint, whether it's in the office or home. Tanium offers an endpoint management and security platform built for the most demanding IT environments. Many of the world's largest and most sophisticated organizations, including nearly half of the Fortune 100, rely on Tanium to deliver unmatched endpoint visibility and control. Whether you're preparing for zero trust or protecting your network from supply chain risk, Tanium empowers technology leaders to achieve greater agility, efficiency, and confidence. Learn more at securityweekly.com/Tanium. Searching for the best way to protect passwords and privileged accounts? Thycotic empowers security and IT operation teams to discover, secure, and manage all types of privileged accounts with the fastest time to value of any privileged access management solution. Get up and running fast with solutions for privileged account discovery, turnkey installation, automation, auditing, and reporting tools with Thycotic's free 30-day trial. Thycotic, the fastest growing PAM provider in the market, available both on-premise and in the cloud. Get started today with a free Thycotic secret server trial at securityweekly.com/Thycotic. Here's Jacob. He's uploading documents to the cloud and chatting notes to his outside agency partners. This is Zoe. She's rushing to share the customer list with marketing and is sending the latest product roadmap to her mobile device. Which one of them is creating insider risk? They both are. Everyone creates insider risk, sometimes with malicious intent, and sometimes just by doing their jobs. Empower productivity and protect your data with Code 42 Insider. Visit securityweekly.com/Code 42 to learn more. Welcome to episode 233 of Enterprise Security Weekly for June 30th, 2021. I'm your host, Paul Asadorian, joined remotely by Adrian Sanabria. Adrian, welcome.
Hey, Paul. Hope you're staying cool enough.
Trying. Cool enough is the key phrase there. Mr. Tyler Robinson is on the lines remotely, a guest co-host for this episode. Tyler, welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be on today. I missed you guys. Yeah. It's definitely nice and cool over here on the West Coast.
I know we missed you on Paul Security Weekly last week. Hopefully you can join this week.
I will be there.
Excellent. Security Weekly is more than happy to announce that we will be at InfoSec World 2021 in person on October 25th through the 27th. This year, of course, it's special. InfoSec World and Security Weekly are both businesses under the Cyber Risk Alliance, which means Security Weekly listeners get to hear and see from many of us at Security Weekly and save 20% off the event. You can visit securityweekly.com/ISW 2021 to register using our discount code. Also, in conference news, Security Weekly Unlocked will be held in person this December 5th through the 8th at the Hilton Lake Buena Vista Hotel. Call for presentations has been extended through July 5th, so if you have a presentation, please submit that. We're a little short of our mark as to the number of presentations we'd like to review. So please do that by visiting securityweekly.com/unlocked and submit your presentation today. This segment is sponsored by NetSparker, securityweekly.com/NetSparker. Joining us today from the NetSparker team, Suha Akyuz is an application security manager at Invicti Security, the parent company to NetSparker, and is a security networking consultant with more than 25 years of experience in IT security, network, and voice over IP, leading and directing information technology operations across broad disciplines. Suha joins us today to talk about why DAST from the project management perspective. Suha, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Paul. It's nice to be here today.
Nice to have you, Suha. I really I like this topic a lot because it speaks to a lot of the kind of culture that we've built here at Security Weekly, which kind of takes like splashes of the hacker kind of persona and splashes from the DevOps kind of methodology and Agile methodology. And we don't just use that when we create and or secure software. We also use that and apply that to our operations as well. And so when you were describing this topic, I was like, this is right up my alley.
Okay, then. So if you don't mind, I'm going to share a small presentation to express myself better.
Yes.
So, and I'm going to try to explain why DAST tools are important from the project management perspective.
Absolutely.
So here we go. So why DAST? And I'm going to start with with a statement. Every STLC is a project. So why is the STLC process a project? So let me define the STLC project first. The STLC is about quality, consistency, and product delivery. And these are the outputs of defined, managed, measurable, repeatable, and reusable set of processes and practices. This is the exact definition of project management. The operations and methods form the core framework of STLC. As a result, every STLC is a project. However, according to my mentor, he's one of the best project managers globally, and he says that more than 96% of projects fail. This is a huge number, isn't it? But how and when do we decide the project is failing? Let's look at the basics of project management to understand it. So, in modern world, a project is typically bound or constrained by three elements. This is also we call it for iron triangle in project management, which are budget, cost, time, schedule, and scope. No site can be changed without affecting the other. By the way, quality is considered as a component of scope. On the other hand, time is the period available to complete the project, and the cost is the project budget, and scope is what must be done to complete the project's deliverables. And three constraints often conflict with each other. For example, scope creep, which is a project killer, means increased time and higher cost. And a tight time frame may mean higher cost and less scope. And a tight budget may mean less time and reduced scope. Quality may be at risk if there are changes to any of these constraints. Let me give you an example to make it clear. For example, let's say that 5 developers are working on creating and launching 15 web pages of copy by, let's say, June 1st. And the buyer may then realize an important event on July 1st and decided those pages should launch 4 weeks earlier. The project management constraint triangle can help accommodate this shortened timeline by adding more resources or maybe limit this launch content. Perhaps there are fewer pages or the design will be more basic. Now we know the basics of project management. Let's go back to STLC and understand how it fails. So in STLC process, while STLC relies on project management and require proper management, let's understand the basics of STLC and the difference between STLC and secure STLC. Software development lifecycle describes how software applications are built. It starts with requirement gathering, and then we design new features based on the requirements. And then we develop new capabilities, and we verify all those new capabilities. And last, maintenance and evaluation of these capabilities once the release goes out the door. This is simply a waterfall model in project management. Additionally, the waterfall model is a bottleneck for software security testing because it's bulky and does not provide security testing window in the development process. This results in fundamental security problems.
Yeah, and also, Suha, what I often find is that in your last two testing and deployment, oftentimes those are flopped, right? So you deploy the software, and then the users do the testing, and that's bad.
Yes. Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Security testing window in the development process. This results in fundamental security problems on application affecting of the project management triangle by creeping the scope or extending the scope, time or budget, and it ends up failing the project itself. Most likely, we deploy the application with many exploits. to get rid of the deployment process. So what's the solution? In modern day, we focus on increasing innovation pace while building well-functioning software applications. As a result, companies have moved on from waterfall to the agile software development methodology, which is more suitable for secure Stlc. So what's agile project management? Let's talk about a little bit. Agile development advocates splitting up large monolithic releases into multiple mini releases, each done in 2 or maybe 3 weeks long sprints, and uses automation such as CI/CD tools to build and verify applications. This allows companies to iterate much more quickly instead of infrequent monolithic deployments characteristic of waterfall-driven applications. Agile development often focuses on releasing new functionality multiple times a day, and it's huge, and building software incrementally instead of all at once. So let me give you an example to understand this. Let's say there's a really big burger in front of you, and you want to eat it. So there are 2 options. You can swallow it all at once, and one big bite, or you can take smaller bites, digestible pieces. Which one do you prefer? So which one is reasonable?
Yeah, I like the agile methodology when I eat as well. Yeah,
yeah, of course.
Does the agile lend itself to a more secure pipeline then? The further you break that up?
Yes, that's correct. So in secure Stlc, we always prefer Agile because, as I said, waterfall model does not provide any testing window, and we always deploy the application with lots of vulnerabilities. But in Agile, in every sprint, we have a small security testing window, and we run this security testing. It can be dynamic analysis or static analysis or both of them. So in every sprint, we run security testing before jumping to another sprint. So we will handle all the vulnerabilities easily. And before going to production, we can be sure that our application is secure, enough secure, acceptable level of security it has. So waterfall-driven applications were tested after their release only. So this testing occurred in production environment. This is another problem, and we run this often yearly. So unfortunately, this means that any potential vulnerabilities will be out of the wild for attackers to exploit for several weeks or even months before they could notice and addressed. As a result, most companies have chosen supplemental production testing with pre-release security testing in Agile project management. The supplemental testing is placed on a critical path of the release, and application need to pass the security check before deploying code to production. Which is why Agile is more suitable for secure Stlc. So, and in secure Stlc, implementing Stlc security affects every phase of the software development process, and it requires security mindset focused on secure delivery, rising issues in the requirements and development phases, and as they are discovered. By fixing these issues early in the process, development teams can reduce the total cost of the ownership of their applications. This is far more efficient and much more cheaper than waiting for these security issues to manifest in the deployed applications. As a result, the Agile project management methodology is more suitable than the waterfall model to develop secure applications. So all in all, traditional practices of testing for vulnerabilities in production are no longer sufficient for securing your applications. It's not usable for current process. So as the software industry has evolved, the type of attacks have evolved as well. So deploying and maintaining a secure application requires securing every step of the application development process. And secure Stlc allows you to shift security risks left.
Yeah, so I just want to say, I usually like, when I look at graphics that are trying to, if you go back to the previous slide, graphics that are depicting an idea or concept or workflow, most of them I'm not a huge fan of. This one I'm a huge fan of. And there's probably like a handful that I see in any given year that I'm like, oh, that graphic makes perfect sense. This one, I know if you're listening as a podcast listener, make sure you go check out the video. This graphic basically maps the security responsibilities to each phase of the Stlc, and that's exactly how I would envision doing it if I were creating software. Yeah.
Correction, secure Stlc, because
Secure
Stlc is completely different than secure Stlc. And nowadays, mostly all companies prefer secure Stlc, and Agile project management is the only solution for secure Stlc.
Yeah, it's perfect.
So, the purpose of secure Stlc is to turn our DevOps operation into DevSecOps. At this point, it's important to discuss the relationship between secure Stlc and DevSecOps. So the definition of secure Stlc is focused on how the application is designed and built. On the other hand, DevSecOps seeks to shift ownership of the production environment for each application away from traditional IT teams, IT engineering teams, and put into the hands of the developers. So the DevOps and DevSecOps have started a revolution in redefining the role of the software developers, which is why developers need security tools to provide security in their development process and integrate those tools with CI/CD tools to conduct security testing rapidly. It's required because they don't have a time frame for a week. If they ask for a security testing to security engineering team, it takes at least a week, most likely longer than a week, and they don't have such a time. As I said, in Agile methodology, every sprint takes a couple of weeks. So they have to do the security testing in a couple of days and fix all the vulnerabilities fastly. So
same thing with code review too, right? You know, like that. Yeah. We've seen a lot of pain in that part of the process where, you know, a lot of the regulations and, you know, auditors come in and you can't review your own code, right? Somebody else has to review it. And
that's correct.
I've never seen more exceptions in compliance and regulations than that one thing, because it just doesn't work with this model.
No, it doesn't work. So, but the Agile methodology saves our world. So, where is Invicti in this picture? Invicti provides DAST tools like NetSparker and Akyuz to make developers' job more straightforward. So, these tools are so easy to use by integrating with CI/CD tools. Even though developers don't need to know how to use these tools by triggering scans or retest issues via CI/CD tools. At the same time, Invicti provides security as a service as well. It's managed security for companies that have hundreds or maybe thousands of development environments. We operate our tools and run security project management on behalf of them by working with their development teams. Simply, we turn their DevOps operations into DevSecOps. So this is all, guys. So I hope that will be helpful.
Yeah, I really like we hear DevSecOps as kind of this buzz term, right? But I think when you dig into it and really truly start understanding it, it becomes more than just a buzzword, and I think a sound methodology. I think Google has done a good job of advocating site reliability engineers, and that for me is really what helped tie some of these pieces together, right? Rather than looking at these three functions of security, development, and operations as three separate things, combining that unilateral team so it can happen basically all at once and as you go is really how you get, because normally security would come in after the fact and go like, hey, developers, like, are you doing code reviews like Adrian was alluding to, right? And then you go to operations, like, are you deploying this in a secure environment in a secure way? And from the security perspective, we'd go, oh, I need a way to be able to monitor if bad things happen, right? But if you build all that into the process as you're describing, Suha, I think you get much better results. I think you get more code faster and you get more secure code faster.
Well, look, I just don't understand. We always train our end users to increase security awareness, and we expect them to protect themselves and the company they are working for. But why not developers? Why we don't expect the same thing from developers? Because they are working for the same companies, and they are the source of all web applications, right? So I don't expect them to be turned out in security professionals, but I expect them to implement security security in their development process. But in modern day, and as I said, they use Scrum Master, Agile project management, and they don't have a time to ask the security engineering team to conduct security testing. Right. They have to done the security testing by themselves. So they don't have a time. They need a simple and easy to use, swift, rapid tools to conduct security testing.
Now, does the ability for these developers to fit something where they're looking at legacy code? Like, I think code is getting a lot more secure today, right? We have a lot better code. Developers are thinking more security. We're getting these Agile and DevOps processes in place. But a lot of the issues we see is the fact that we've progressed so quickly in a technology standpoint, and a lot of the legacy code or legacy applications that are being bolted on to the new stuff being developed. Where does that kind of fit into the lifecycle? How do you actually work in the evaluating older code and what is been there? Because we see a lot of vulnerabilities coming from stuff like that. Just look at the Microsoft printer bug, right? That's very, very old code that's been worked into a new operating system that is very secure. But how does that fit into that lifecycle and that process?
Well, mostly the developers prefer porting the old school applications to new methodologies. So in this case, they don't trust the old written applications, and they always prefer porting the applications in new technologies. And Agile methodology allows them to port the application into new methodologies easily.
Yeah. So
does that mean the project managers need to work into their scope and time requirements for new applications? Do they need to work in the evaluation as part of a whole project to evaluate the older code and what's being done as part of that porting process?
No, the responsibility of project managers are defining tasks and assigning tasks to the right person. So they are working like an orchestration chief, So they don't need to review the code. They don't need to. Yeah, it's good to know what's going on in the team and what kind of actions they are taking. So it's an advantage, but they don't need to do it. They don't need to hands-on the project itself, but they need to know how those tasks are going on. So they assign the task to the proper person, and then they expect them to complete the task. So in this case, developers become security professionals, part of security professionals. So project managers know what's going on, and the team members complete the tasks.
Yeah, it's interesting. Taking legacy code that was maybe developed in a waterfall model, and then we're going to incorporate it and or update it. Could you put that into a waterfall model, like run it through your first series of tests, and then have a bunch of bugs kind of fall out, and then just keep like reiterating over that as you integrate it? Would that be your recommendation, Suha?
Well, no. The waterfall in waterfall model, there's no time for security testing because it's bulky. So most of the companies who follows waterfall model deploys their application with lots of vulnerabilities, and they expect from security engineering team to find all those vulnerabilities, but it takes time, like a couple of months or maybe more. Mm-hmm. So they run the security testing annually. So it's another problem because there are always 0 days, and hackers find a way to hack the applications. So I believe security testing needs to be done monthly basis. So it's not a thing for security engineering team. So DAST tools can be completed easily and provides you a report monthly, and you can take proper actions. So in waterfall model, as I said, the companies are deploying their applications with vulnerabilities because they don't have any testing window in their project development process.
Yeah, there's an interesting report we actually talked about on Application Security Weekly on Monday from Osterman Research. Basically said 81% of developers release software knowing that there's vulnerabilities in the code. And a lot of it is, I think they don't really have the knowledge to say, whether this is okay or not, because some bugs are going to make it into production. And I think most of them under time pressures, just look at it and think, nobody's going to find that. Like, it's okay.
Well, yeah, you're right. When they find out, as you said, they already know it, but when they find out the application has vulnerabilities, they don't have a time to fix all those vulnerabilities because they have defined time frame and budget and scope. They cannot change the scope. They cannot change the time. They cannot change the budget. So they have to go to production as soon as possible. Otherwise, project is going to fail. Which is why in waterfall model, they always know what kind of vulnerabilities the application have, and but they don't care it. They just deploy the application on the wild.
Mm.
Yeah. And I think from the security side, there's something to learn there for us, that vulnerabilities aren't the biggest risk. The product never going to production is the biggest risk because, then your jobs are gone, then the revenue's gone.
They rely on web application firewalls mostly, but it's not a solution. It's just a workaround.
Yeah, that's more of that's a hope and pray control.
Well, yeah, it relies more on the operational aspects of security, such as your web application firewalls and other monitoring to detect when you've been attacked and or successfully or not. It doesn't fix the actual vulnerabilities in the software.
Well, something happens to your web application firewall or a system admin adds any rule, covers everything all alone except kind of rules in web application firewall, that may be a problem. So your application will be wild naked.
And really, application security follows much of security as we talk about business risk, right? There is always a business risk balance and decision that has to be made to get the product out as quick as possible, get it to market with the least amount of vulnerabilities. But at some point, you do have that kind of timeline, that scope, that budget that has to be followed. And the business has to make that call as far as how much time, budget, and scope they're going to put into the security aspect of getting the product to market.
Yeah, that's correct. So they always start with the fixed budget and scope. If they change the scope, it always affect on the budget and the time frame. So if they cannot change the time frame and if they cannot add additional budget for the software, they always have to accept all those vulnerabilities and risks. They always accept the high or critical risks in their application and then deploy it. But modern especially secure Stlc expects you to conduct risk management too. So you need to conduct risk management and what kind of risk can be happen. And then if it hits your company, for an instance, if you lose your user database or the hacker gets the ownership of your servers, that will be much more problem for your company.
Yeah, I think there's an interesting analogy here to recycling. Because a lot of this has to do with knowledge. You understanding what works, what doesn't work. How to apply risk to those different components. And with recycling, a lot of people recycle, but they don't really know what should go in that recycling bin versus the trash bin. If you talk to any recycling operation or facility, they'll tell you a huge chunk of what gets sent to them cannot be recycled, and they have to filter it out. They even have a term for it that they call wish cycling. And it's basically people are throwing stuff in the recycle bin to make themselves feel better, about themselves, and their, I guess what they've purchased, their purchasing decisions and stuff like that. But once you actually know what's recyclable, it actually changes how you buy things somewhat. Once you know, actually, even though that's plastic, it's going to go into a landfill. It might change some of your choices and might be somewhat a useful analogy on the coding side of things.
Unless you live in my town, in which case they threaten fines and jail time if you don't recycle properly and put huge stickers on top of your recycling bin. And there's an analogy there to security is that does that really work? right?
But how do they? So the education piece is the bit that really matters here. Like, how do they educate you on what can go in there and what can't? Because like
very
it's tough
poorly
to read those symbols.
Very poorly. They've invested heavily on the other side of it, which I think is also a good security analogy, in that there's cameras on the truck, so as the recycling is falling out, it's actually taking a video recording of what is falling out. So they're very heavy on the enforcement and monitoring side, but very light on the education and practical side from the user perspective.
It seems kind of backwards, doesn't it?
Yeah. That could also be a really good talk. Right?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, so what would the term be here if that's wish cycling? This is what?
This is like
we have a clever portmanteau.
Yeah, I'm failing to come up with anything, but
I like lipstick syndrome. Yeah,
but you're right.
Dressing something up.
Well, awesome. Suha, thank you so much for appearing on Enterprise Security Weekly.
The pleasure is mine. Thanks for the opportunity.
For folks who want to learn more, please visit securityweekly.com/NetSparker. Coming up next, the Enterprise Security News. Stick around.